Hello, this is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful little leaf brooches. You can put them on your hat, you can put them on your beautiful scarf or wrap, you can hang them up and use them for decoration. They're super easy to make and they make a great addition to any sweater, purse, hat, cowl, anything fall, and they're great for decoration as well. Now this is a free, brand new release crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link right down there in the notes underneath the video, and it is a complete photo tutorial with each step of the leaves and the little stem so that you can see pictures if you prefer. So what you're going to need to make one of these lovely little fall leaves is just a little bit of worsted weight number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter hook. You'll also need a needle for weaving in those ends and for sewing on our brooch pin. And this is what you'll need, is a brooch pin. There we go. Now this is a small one. You can use a couple different sizes as long as it fits across the back of your leaf. And you can get these at your local craft store or fabric store. I think I got 6 or 8 for about $1.97. And then the last thing you're going to need, of course, is a pair of scissors. The first thing that you're going to need to do is make a slip knot. So we'll put our yarn around our finger, twist around, make a little loop, and pull that loop through our finger. And put our hook through that loop. We're going to chain 5 chains. And then we're going to take the tail of the yarn, wrap it over our hook, and pull it through that loop. There we go. And we'll just snug that down. And I always just make a little knot in the top just to hold that loop down. There we go. And now we're going to be stitching in this loop. So we're going to put our hook in the loop, pull up a loop, and chain 1. And this chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. It just gets us on to the top of our circle or loop. Now we're going to stitch 12 single crochets in this loop. So we'll put our hook in, pull up a loop. You'll have those 2 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over and go through both loops. So there's 1. And it is going to be a tight fit to get all 12 of those single crochets in that circle. But we need 12 single crochets. You'll have to squish them around a little bit. Alright, so let me count how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Need to do a few more. Here's 9, 10. Squish those over. 11 and 12. So we need 12 single crochets in that circle. Now we're going to put our hook through that first single crochet that we stitched, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then pull that loop right through that loop that's on our hook. And go ahead and chain 1. Now again, this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. It just gets us on top of where we need to be. And that's how our first row will look. So this is the circle that we just made here. And we're going to begin by making this first little bump on the sleeve, then the next bump on the leaf. Then we'll do the big one, and we'll come around here and then make this stem. And this is done all in one row. And so I'm going to take you through each step of the leaf. All right, I'm going to set that over there out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. Now, in the next stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, but we're going to stitch a picot stitch on the top. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to wrap our yarn over, we're going to go in the next stitch, and we're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2. That's a double crochet. Now we're going to stitch a picot stitch on the top. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to place our hook through those 2 loops right at the top of that stitch, yarn over and pull that yarn through, and then that loop we're going to pull right through the loop that's on our hook, and that's going to make that little bump. Now let's make another double crochet in the same stitch. And now you can see, here's our chain 3, we did a double crochet, here's our picot bump, and then we did another double crochet. Alright, so let's chain 3. We're going to slip stitch right in that same stitch where we stitched those 2 double crochets. And then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch. So there's our first portion of our leaf. Let's do the next portion of our leaf. We've already single crocheted in the next stitch. So we're going to chain 3. And in the next single crochet, we're going to stitch a double crochet, a triple, then a picot, and then we'll do a triple and a double. And that's going to give us that shape that we're wanting for our leaf bump here. So let's do a double crochet in this next stitch. And we're going to do a triple in the same stitch. So we're going to put 2 wraps on our hook. We're going to go right in that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go through the next 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through those last 2 loops. We're going to chain 3. We're going to go through those 2 loops right there at the top of the stitch, yarn over and pull that through, then pull that loop through the loop on our hook to make our picot. And now we're going to make another triple right in that same stitch. And then we're going to make a double. And that gives us that shape that we want. So we'll chain 3, slip stitch in that same stitch, you know it's getting tight in there, and then single crochet in the next stitch. So there's our next portion of our leaf. So now we're going to do the next portion. So we're going to chain 3 again. In the next single crochet, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now we're going to stitch 2 triple crochets in the next stitch. So wrap twice around your hook, go in the next single crochet. We'll stitch that triple, but at the top of this triple we're going to stitch a picot stitch. So we're chaining 3. We're going right in the top of those stitches, pulling that loop through, and then that loop, pull it through the loop on your hook, And now we're going to stitch another triple right in that same stitch. Okay, and now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Chain 3, slip stitch in that same stitch, and then single crochet in the next. And that's that top part of our leaf. For this next portion, we're going to do exactly what we did on this side. We're going to chain 3. We're going to place a double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to place a triple in the same stitch. We're going to chain 3 to make a peacock. Then we'll place a triple in that same stitch. And a double in that same stitch, and chain 3. Whoops, there we go. Then we slip stitch in that same stitch, and then single crochet in the next. So we can see how our leaf is shaping up nicely. Now we need to finish with this last portion. So this last portion is exactly the way we did the first one. So we're going to chain 3, we're going to double crochet in that next stitch, then we'll do chain 3 for our peacock, slip stitch in the top of our double crochet, then we'll double crochet in that same stitch and chain 3 and join to the same stitch. Okay, so this is the way our leaf is looking. Now we need to make that stem. So we're going to chain 5, we're going to turn, we're going to skip that first chain and stitch, almost said slip, we're going to stitch a slip stitch in the chains going back up to the leaf. We chained 5, so you should have 4 slip stitches because we skipped that first one. And then we'll join right into that first single crochet and cut our work off. Now, I want you to leave a little bit of a tail because we're going to use that to sew on that brooch. So we'll go ahead and tie that off. And something that you'll notice is there might be a little bit of a hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over and we're going to grab that needle and we're going to use this beginning tail to close up that hole. Thread our needle and we'll go around those single crochet stitches in the center. And then you can gently pull that and that hole will close up for you. Looks like I need a few more stitches there on the bottom. There we go. Once that closes up on you, go ahead and go up and then turn and come back because you want that to hold and then go back the other way. Okay, and we'll go ahead and clip that off. Alright, so here's our leaf. And you'll notice it is a little curly, and I like that. If you want it to flatten out, you can dampen it and put it on a blocking board if you want to. I kind of liked it a little bit curly. Alright, so here is my brooch pin. So this is the front. I'm going to turn it over to the back, and I'm going to thread on this long piece of yarn that I saved, and I'm going to make sure that my brooch opens from the bottom. That means the little hook thing needs to be so you can hook it from the bottom. This is the top, so I'm going to put that there. I'm going to set it aside first because I'm going to bring my yarn up to the center. Just make a little stitch so it stays put. Now, if you don't want to sew your brooch pin on, you can use a fabric glue or a hot glue if you'd want to. Or you don't even have to add the fabric pin. You can just attach this to a hat or a bag or whatever you want to with a safety pin, and that would work just fine. Now, if you want to add the brooch pin, what I do is I bring my yarn up through the center, and you have to make sure that your needle can fit through the holes on your brooch pin. Okay, and then I just begin sewing stitches going underneath, and I start in the center so that I can get it where I want it to be, because you can't put a pin to hold it in place on a brooch pin. I go like that, and then I'll just go right back in that same hole. There we go, and that kind of makes it stay where I want it to be. And then I don't really use the other holes that much. I just move that little pin there. I just make loop stitches around. Going across that bar until I'm satisfied that it's going to stay put. And we got a lot going on in there, so you're going to have to make, you know, a lot of stitches, and these needles aren't real sharp, so you're going to have to really get through some of those stitches. And it's up to you. Make as many as you feel confident that that brooch pin is going to stay where you want it to be. Okay. Pull on it, make sure it's going to stay where you want it. And then I come up to this end, make a few stitches, and I kind of just go back the other way. Okay. And I think it's going to stay put, so I'm going to clip off my needle. And here is my brooch pin. Now, like I said, I like them a little bit loopy, a little bit curly, but if you want it nice and flat, you can put it on a blocking board, dampen it and put it on a blocking board and just stretch it all out. That would work just fine. And also, you can do this with cotton yarn as well. People usually ask, does it have to be acrylic? And no, it does not. Just depends on what you're going to do with it. So here's the one we just made. Here's the off-white one. Here's another gold one. This is the green one. And this is the cranberry one. So this is how you can make a fun fall leaf to add to anything that you want to wear, a hat, a bag, headband. You can even stick it on a skirt or use it for decoration. This is my autumn leaf brooch.